Patriots at Bills. Let's talk to the man who's been covering the Bills longer than anyone. The longest tenured day-to-day beat reporter in the team's history. It's Sal Mairoana with Armen and Levack of the Rochester Democrat and Chronicle. Sal, you've been covering the Bills over 25 years. How does the hype leading up to this game compared to what you've seen in the past?
Well, obviously, guys, there's a lot of excitement about the game because finally the Bills think that they have a roster and a team and a coach that can go toe-to-toe with Belichick and Brady. I mean, the Patriots have owned the Bills for 15 years. It's been downright embarrassing. They're 23-3 since Brady became the quarterback in 2001, and one of those losses was the last game of the year last year when Brady and most of the starters sat out, so it is a big asterisk next to that one. So, yeah, there's a lot of excitement. The stadium's going to be rocking. But, you just said, I'm old. I've been here a long, long time.
You take it that way.
It remains to be seen how much different this crowd will be compared to the good old days when the Bills were going to Super Bowls, and almost every game in that stadium was an event. It was a big game. It was a must-see TV, championship games. Those are the games, to me, that will never be surpassed. But again, not to throw water on the fire, it's going to be a great atmosphere Sunday, and I think it's probably the game of the week in the NFL.
Yep.
Well, Sal, you bring up a great point, though. I mean, you say old, we say experienced, and you were there, during the Kelly years, making the runs at the Super Bowl, all that fun stuff. Is this team good enough to earn this kind of hype, or is this Rex Ryan, new coach, new owners? Does this team match up to the great teams of the past in your mind so far?
Yeah, I mean they're not there yet, clearly, because that team had 6 or 7 Hall of Famers counting the coach. So yeah, it's going to be awful tough to match what the Bills had back in the early '90s. But obviously, this team is coming. I mean, this defense is probably better than any Bills defense in the Super Bowl era. And that includes, you've got Bruce Smith, Darryl Talley, Cornelius Bennett, all those great players. But honestly, I think this defense, top to bottom, might be better than any of the defenses back then. The difference back then was you had Jim Kelly, Thurman Thomas, Andre Reed, Ken Hall, all these great players on offense putting up, pinball-like points. So that was the difference between that team and this team. Tyrod Taylor has played one game as an NFL starter. So he's got a long way to go, and I think this is a huge test. The Colts, I don't think, really challenged him very much last week at all. I mean, it was a pretty easy game for Taylor to make his debut. That won't be the case this week. Belichick eats young quarterbacks for lunch, and it's going to be incumbent on Tyrod Taylor to figure out what Belichick is trying to do to him and have a response, because if he doesn't, this game could go the other way. And the Patriots could walk away with it.
Sal Mairoana of the Rochester Democrat and Chronicle, at Sal Mairoana on Twitter, getting you ready for Patriots at Bills on Sunday, 1 o'clock kick. LeSean McCoy, a huge aspect of the Bills offense, because you talk about taking the pressure off Tyrod Taylor with LeSean McCoy. How healthy is he going to be, Sal?
Yeah, he left practice early on Thursday. The hamstring acted up again. And, quite frankly, guys, I think this hamstring issue, it could be a problem all year. That's the kind of injury that really can nag you for a long time. And until you give it proper rest and don't do anything, it's probably not going away. So, what that's going to mean in terms of his touches, I mean, he had 20 last week, but that was coming off of a good little break for him. He skipped the rest of he got hurt before the second preseason game, so he sat out the next 3 games. Returned to practice the week of the opener. So he had a pretty good rest, but clearly this was a more extensive injury than maybe we even thought, because it's still bothering him. So I look for McCoy to play in the game. I'm not quite sure how much he'll give him, and that could open the door for Carlos Williams, who, let's face it, he had a pretty good debut last week.
Sal, Belichick's number one quality that everybody talks about is he takes away your favorite thing on offense. What is the biggest weapon on this Bills offense?
I still think the biggest weapon, you take your choice, McCoy or Watkins. We saw nothing out of Sammy Watkins last week, which was really a surprise. The Colts defense isn't that good to the point where they could take him completely out of the offense, but somehow they did it. So the Bills have got to figure out a way to get him more involved, because you can't have a guy with that kind of talent having 3 targets all day and no catches. So I think Watkins, if they get him involved, he's a dynamic, game-changing kind of player. And then McCoy, clearly, LeSean McCoy was brought here because when he was with Philadelphia, he was the focal point of that offense. 300 and some touches the last 2 seasons. Huge yardage. He's over 7,000 yards now, or close to that for his career. So that's a guy who's made a lot of plays in the NFL, both as a runner and a receiver. So he's another guy. You've got to get him involved and get him going. He was involved last week. They just couldn't get him going. He only had 41 yards rushing. So, yeah, Watkins and McCoy, those are the 2 guys that this Bills offense has to go through.
Sal Mairoana of the Rochester Democrat and Chronicle. So, Sal, let's get to it. How can the Bills do this? How do the Bills beat the Patriots?
I think the biggest thing on defense is, generate pressure, but I think the Bills have to do it with their front 4. I think it's going to be a scary proposition if Rex goes blitzing the way he did Andrew Luck last week, because Brady, first of all, has so much familiarity with the Bills players. He has so much familiarity with Rex Ryan's defensive coaching style, unlike Andrew Luck, who really doesn't have much of it at all at this point in his career. I think Brady could pick apart a Buffalo blitz. He's got those nasty little, Edelman and Amendola. They always find cracks in the defense. And then obviously he's got Gronk. And he also has LeGarrette Blount back this week. So I think blitzing him might be a mistake. Come after him with 4, cover with 7, and take your chances. I think if they can do that effectively, I think they'll be in good shape. And then on the other side of the ball, I really think they have to run. I don't think they can pin this whole thing on Tyrod Taylor in the passing game. They've got to find a consistent way to run the ball better than they did last week. They had 147 yards. That was skewed by Taylor scrambling. They really weren't all that effective when the running backs, particularly McCoy, were trying to pound it through there. So run the ball better and help Tyrod Taylor in the passing game by doing that.
Sal, a weird little side story broke out this week in the midst of Bills Patriots. The news that something is wrong with Charles Clay's knee that got leaked from somewhere. What do you make of that story?
Yeah, we know that he had problems with the knee last year. It was drained several times. I can't imagine that the Bills personnel department didn't check this out thoroughly before they gave him $38 million. So, yeah, I'm sure he probably has, something is in the knee, but I don't know that it's imminent that his career is going to come to an end, which the story apparently says that he's only got a year or 2 left in his career. How could you possibly know? Right. So, I don't know. Every NFL player battles injury. A lot of guys battle knee injuries. A lot of guys tear ACLs and come back stronger than ever. So, who knows where the story came from, and there could be some truth to it, but I don't think the Bills are going to worry about it right now.
Sal Mairoana, Rochester Democrat and Chronicle, at Sal Mairoana on Twitter, one of our faves. Sal, have a great time at the game this weekend. Hopefully we can talk about some good stuff in the near future with you.
Yeah, that'd be nice. They got off to a great start, but really, the standard is New England, and they've got to prove they can beat this team. They're not going to win the division unless they beat the Patriots. You've got them in your place, coming off a big emotional win. Go do something about it. Go prove to us that you are a team that can contend for a playoff berth this year.
Love it. Sal, thank you.
All right, guys. Talk to you soon.